When you hear the name Van Cleef and Arpels, you probably think of jaw-dropping price tags and glamorous red carpets. But today, we're going to go way beyond that. We are diving into the love stories, the royal commissions, and the absolute technical genius that turned a Parisian jeweler into a global legend. Okay, let's get into it.
So, let me ask you a question. What actually makes a piece of jewelry legendary? It sounds simple, right? But is it just about the size of the diamond, the purity of the gold, or is it something more? Is it the story behind the stone, the hands that shaped it, the history it was a part of?
To start answering that, just look at this number, $40 million. That's what a single, spectacular pink diamond with a deep connection to our story sold for at auction. I mean, that's not just expensive, that is the stuff of legends. And that right there gives you a taste of the world we're about to step into.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this whole story down. First, we'll tackle what creates that price of perfection. Then, we'll journey back to the brand's Parisian legacy. From there, we'll look at the actual jewels of history. Then, we'll uncover the art of innovation behind them. And finally, we'll see what makes them an enduring icon today.
Okay, first up, the price of perfection. So what is it that creates that price tag? Of course, it starts with the absolute finest materials on planet Earth. But the true value, the thing that makes it legendary, well, that's not just in the stones, it's in the story. And for that, we've got to go back to the very beginning.
Which brings us to their Parisian legacy. And believe it or not, this whole story doesn't start with a giant gemstone. It actually starts with a love story and a marriage, right in the heart of turn-of-the-century Paris.
So picture this. It's 1896, and Alfred Van Cleef and Solomon Arpels found their maison. Just 10 years later, they opened their first boutique. And they don't just open it anywhere. No, they pick the most prestigious spot in all of Paris, Place Vendôme. I mean, we're talking right across the street from the legendary Ritz Hotel. This wasn't just a shop, it was a massive statement. And as the whole Art Deco vibe started sweeping the globe, so did their reputation for incredible quality and design.
So they've set themselves up right in the heart of the luxury world, and they are perfectly positioned for what comes next. And honestly, this is where the story goes from interesting to absolutely fascinating, because they weren't just selling jewelry anymore. They started crafting pieces that would literally become a part of history, worn by empresses, princesses, and huge Hollywood stars.
For example, just think about this. Imagine getting the call to create the entire set of coronation jewels for an empress. In this case, Empress Farah Pahlavi of Iran. This wasn't just another royal order. This was a task of immense national importance.
Okay, get ready for these numbers because they are insane. The crown alone had nearly 1,500 diamonds. At its center, a massive 150-carat emerald. That is huge. Not to mention over 100 pearls, dozens of other emeralds, rubies, and more. And the craziest part? Pierre Arpels himself flew to Tehran 24 separate times to hand-pick these stones directly from Iran's national treasure vault. This was, without a doubt, history in the making.
Now, remember that $40 million diamond we talked about at the start? The Princey diamond? Well, here's the full story. This stone was actually mined in India over 300 years ago, but its modern legend, yeah, that was pretty much shaped by Van Cleef and Arpels.
So, back in 1960, the Maison gets its hands on this exceptional, almost 35-carat pink diamond. They decided to name it the Princey, in honor of the young Prince of Baroda. And that's the genius of it. By giving the stone a name, a personality, a story, they basically cemented its fame long before it would go on the shatter auction records decades later.
And of course, you can't talk about legendary jewels without talking about one of the most famous weddings of all time. The whole world was watching when Hollywood royalty Grace Kelly married Prince Rainier III of Monaco. And guess who got the call to make the wedding jewels? Yep, Van Cleef and Arpels.
And the set they created? Wow. Just a breathtaking ensemble of pearls and diamonds. It was so magnificent, so perfect, that after the wedding, the Maison was given the official title of Patented Supplier of the Principality of Monaco. Think about that. This wasn't just a sale. It was the beginning of an enduring royal relationship that locked in their status for decades.
But look, getting those huge, historic commissions, that takes more than just a good name. To become a true legend, you have to be an innovator. And it's that technical genius, the magic behind the beauty, that really set Van Cleef and Arpels apart.
Let's talk about their most famous innovation, the Certi Misterio, or mystery set. They patented this way back in 1933, and it is just mind-bendingly difficult. The whole idea is to set gemstones so that you see no metal prongs at all. The framework is completely hidden, so what you get is this seamless, flawless, velvety surface of pure color. It's basically a magic trick that requires an unbelievable amount of skill.
But if you want to talk about pure, brilliant audacity, you have to talk about the zip necklace. The story goes that the Duchess of Windsor herself suggested it back in the late 1930s. She literally looked at a regular old zipper and challenged them to make one out of high jewelry. And you know what? They actually did it.
I mean, just look at this thing. It's a real working zipper, but it's made of gold and precious stones. You can wear it open as this stunning flowing necklace, or you can slide the tassel and it zips right up to become this elegant, chic bracelet. It is the perfect fusion of playful design and just breathtaking engineering.
So, you've got this legacy built on royal commissions and unbelievable innovation. But how does a brand like that stay an icon today? Well, the answer is they got really good at turning inspiration from the past into modern symbols, and they made an unparalleled commitment to sharing their knowledge with the world.
You've definitely seen this one. Perhaps their most recognizable creation is the Alhambra. It was introduced back in 1968, inspired by the four-leaf clover motifs found in the tilework of the Alhambra Palace in Spain. They took this ancient architectural detail and turned it into a modern, universal symbol of luck.
And this brings us to what might be their most unique legacy. In a world that's so focused on selling, Van Cleef and Arpels did something different. They decided to teach. They founded L'École, the School of Jewelry Arts.
And what's so remarkable is that this school isn't just for industry insiders. It's open to anyone, to you, to me. It's their commitment to preserving the craftsmanship and history of their art form for future generations. It shows they see themselves not just as jewelers, but as guardians of a precious heritage.
Which brings us all the way back to our first question. From the national treasures of an empire to the mechanics of a zipper, Van Cleef & Arpels has shown that the greatest value lies not just in the carats, but in the story. So I'll leave you with this thought. When jewelry tells a story, does its value become truly timeless?